We're recording this on March 26th. Liz, do you want to guess how much taxes we were paying this year?
I don't want to hear about it. You tell me.
It's a lot because we bought our last property in 2024. So that was $1 million property. We put in about 250-ish in there. So we got a really nice tax benefit in 2024. 2025, we got really busy with the kids, our businesses, and we did not buy anything in 2025. Hey everyone, welcome back to SC Like the Best. I'm your host, Michael Chang. I have Liz here with me today. Hey Liz, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So we've got a lot of questions from married couples like us, right? Like you want to do short-term rentals, you want to save taxes, you want to qualify for the short-term rental tax loophole. Now, a big question we get is, how do I qualify, right? So this episode will be solely focused on how Liz and I approach our material participation hours. Just disclaimer, we're not CPAs, so this isn't tax advice. Please consult with your licensed professional. If it's your first time listening to the podcast, thank you for joining us today. And our podcast here is really designed to help you as an investor better spend your time and money on how to invest in short-term rental. So if you are learning, if you have a short-term rental, if you're thinking about it, all the topics we cover here is to demystify the short-term rental investing strategy through our personal experience. Liz and I have done this for almost 10 years now together, and we're still married, so we've done a couple things right.
That's true. We still here peacefully talking to each
Peacefully.
other.
Different floors, but peacefully. So let me just set the stage a little bit. If you want to utilize the short-term rental tax loophole, what is that? The short-term rental tax loophole is a strategy that allows you to buy a short-term rental, right, an Airbnb, materially participate in the operations of that property, which we're going to talk about. And if you qualify that property as a short-term rental and you do your material participation, what you can do is offset the paper losses from the Airbnb against your active income. So active income could be your W-2 income, 1099, if you're a consultant, K1, if you're a business owner, capital gains, basically any kind of income, the paper losses from depreciation, and offset that against your active income. And this is really one of the very few ways that working professionals can offset their taxes through real estate. Most ways are limited by the tax law purposefully. They want you to pay your taxes, but this is a way for you to not only buy property, a good property that's going to cash flow for you, appreciate, and save you a bunch of taxes. We're recording this on March 26th. Liz, do you want to guess how much taxes we were paying this year?
I don't want to hear about it.
It-
You tell me.
It's a lot because we bought our last property in 2024. So we got a nice bonus depreciation. We bought our house in the Catskills here in New York. So that was $1 million property. We put in about 250-ish in there. So we got a really nice tax benefit in 2024. 2025, we got really busy with the kids, our businesses, and we did not buy anything in 2025. So we have a significant tax liabilities here, honey. It's in the six figures.
Yes.
It's very painful. We've been able to offset some of that by doing some, renovation work in our property. So we didn't buy anything. And through Liz, a lot of your hard work, we are in contract for a $2.1 million place in Tennessee now. About as of today's the 26th, about 16 days ago. We went in contract on the 10th. Learning our lesson from not buying last year, we got ahead of the curve and, hopefully we'll close on April 16th. So we're going to have to cut your sweet green budget because we'll have a big tax liability. Sorry.
Yes. And the strategy really is to defer the taxes, right? Not like you don't need to pay it. If you sell, there is consequences over there as well. I think that's one thing we hear a lot of people ask about as well.
Yeah. The whole point of this investment strategy is to hold it for the long term. And for us, it's to, we buy these properties, we're going to hold it for as long as we are alive. That's the plan, and pass it on to our children so they get the basis step up. When they get the basis step up, then they would not have to pay back the depreciation benefits. But I don't want to get super technical on that part What I want to really focus here today is me and you, like, what's the work that we do on our properties? We have a large portfolio of apartments in Philadelphia that we don't own, we rent, and then we sublease on Airbnb and other platforms. So that's our arbitrage portfolio. And then we have 7 properties that we own that are short term rentals, 6 in Tennessee, 1 in New York, and then number 8 that is currently in contract. We obviously don't own that yet. So there's a fair amount of work that is involved in that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How we leverage technology, some of our assistants, and to manage these properties not only effectively, everything is multiple hours away, but also be able to hit our material participation hours. I think here where I would like to focus the conversation on is how do we get to at least 100 hours? Because that's the rule for most people that if you're trying to meet the material participation requirements, basically it's saying that, hey, I buy a good short term rental, I rent it out 7 days or fewer over the year. That makes it a short term rental, 7 days or fewer on average. And then you meet the material participation requirements. There are 7 ways to meet it. The most common one is what's called the 100-hour rule. If you've done some research, between you and your spouse, you must perform at least 100 hours of service on the property during that tax year. And no one else can do more than you. So what does that mean? First, I think definitionally, spouse together, we are 2 different people. From a tax perspective, our hours combined. So if Liz does 50 hours and I do 50 hours, they combine to 100 hours. And a question we get commonly is like, okay, what if my cleaner or someone does 51 hours? Does that mean we're don't qualify for the rule? Or actually, let me give you like a more edge case. Say I do 1 hour only. Liz does 99 hours. So together we're 100 hours, but I have a cleaner that cleans for 3 hours. So does that make me offsides?
The answer is no. To be combined, you do 100 hours more than anyone else.
Exactly. Right. So the way the IRS looks is like you and your spouse combined. So if I do 1 hour or 99 hours and us combined is the total amount of hours that is counted. Right. So if I do 100 and Liz does 50, then together we have 150. So someone else has to do more than 150 hours for me to not meet that rule. That's a really powerful advantage of being married. We've had, I think, 2 members of our SC Like the Best mentorship program that were in relationships that accelerated their legal marriage date in order to take advantage of this rule. So if you're out there figuring out when you want to legally get married, this is the IRS will give you a gift if you decide to do it to accelerate it. And then the other nice benefit is hours are combined, right? So not just our hours combined for the 100 hours, but like if Liz and I are working on our property, we go there, we drive there, we spend 8 hours there. I'm doing something, she's doing something, right? We're both working, right? Which is what we do. Although it's 8 physical hours, like, say today we worked 10 hours, like noon to 10 p.m. It's 10 real, like physical hours, but Liz did 10 and I did 10. So from a tax perspective, from a material participation perspective, that's 20 hours actually. So there are some really valuable tax advantages if you're doing this with your spouse. One, you have someone to kind of do it with, which is nice. 2, your hours combined. So if you're doing it together, you basically get to double your hours. And 3 is those hours combined. If you're trying to meet the 100-hour requirement, one person has to beat both of you, right? So you're stronger together. So everything you do it together because you're stronger together.
It is true. But it doesn't mean that if you're single, it's not a viable strategy. It still is, but you do still need to fulfill that 100 hours by yourself.
You got to fulfill it by yourself, right? And your girlfriend or boyfriend doesn't count. Yeah, like I think we've had people that are single or in same-sex marriages that, like, depending on the tax code, how that shakes out. I don't know the exact rule on there, but you have to kind of understand the rule so you make sure that you qualify. We'll focus on just the married couples now, since that's sort of where you and I have the most knowledge of. So Liz, like, as you record your hours, like, what are, as we bought the property or we're in contract for the property, what's some hours that you've done?
That's a great way to kind of give some examples. So since we found the property under contract and from now The last 16 days, we have kickoff design. We did hire a designer, a professional designer. However, some of the hours that I've been doing is one is, for example, just creating the overall concept that I'm thinking about, and then really put some inspiration together, the theme, the strategy of the design, that what I'm thinking about, put them together into a mood board, and so I can have a better conversation with my designer when we go into the design phase. That I did record those hours, so
So
that's
how many hours is that?
I would say like around 2 hours from
2 hours?
like
Okay.
looking at the comms, looking at the top comms around me, see what's working in the market. That's part of the analysis and design combined work. And then based on that, I kind of put together a mood board that I know will work, and then brainstorm with my designer when we kick off the project.
What else? I know you did more than that.
Yeah, and then of course we are also doing. Yesterday we had a great kickoff conversation, right? That was about 2 hours of work, like just bouncing idea back and forth, talking to them. This work, this doesn't. Would this space fit this? So that collaboration, coordination with the designer on the 2 hour call was also work.
Right. So that's like, it's 4 or 5, it's like 4 or 5 hours of work. So just for what I've done, right? So just to be clear, before you're in contract, research, evaluations, that doesn't count into your material participation hours. So we track ours using this app called the STR tax loophole. You want to make sure to record your hours somewhere. Then we think the app is more it's more convenient for us to use versus pen and paper, but use something that you can do consistently because you need to keep those records. Everything that's before you get into contract doesn't count, right? So once you're in contract, design work counts. Like for me personally, I spent 2+ hours working on the insurance for it, talking to multiple agents, sending over the documentation that they need. I've worked on the loan. It's taken me probably 4 or 5 hours, like the application, all the disclosures, appraisal, that amount of work that I've had to do. We already have a team in the Smokies, but also, talking with my cleaners and making sure my cleaner, my handyman, like all the people there that are working on our property, they know what to do. We have what I call a day one plan, is that how we're spending our time between contract, right? From when we got into contract on, I think around the 10th of March to when we expect to close, which will be the 16th of April, or take these 6 weeks here and develop our day one plan. Our day one plan is once we close, I want to be able to press a button and like we've done all the work that we can so that like everyone can deploy. Like all the designs are done. We can start buying everything. We have our team in place that's going to set the stuff up. We have the timeline of when that's going to do that so I can go down there and listen, go down there to work on that. Our operational team is ready to take things over at, when the work is done. The insurance is in place, the loan is in place. I actually just signed my rate lock today. So like all these things that you want to be able to do, so all these like different work streams that you need to do in order to have a real strong day one plan. And the day one plan is important because once you close, your mortgage starts, your insurance starts, your taxes start, your utility starts, everything starts. So you want to minimize what's called your holding costs, right? Which is basically you're just kind of holding the property without it generating revenue for you. So we want to reduce that as much as possible. So our goal is to reduce that to 2 months. Our internal date for ourselves is June 1st. I give myself like a week buffer. I want to be live and ready to go by at the latest June 7th because I want to be able to hit July 4th this summer, right? Those are like the busiest times in this market. Design work that Liz is doing, the operational work that I'm doing, those all combine into 100 hours. So if you're listening, that's how you and your spouse can do that. One person is handling, we have a client right now that's buying the same development. Like he's working on a lot of the finance and operational things, and his spouse is working on more of the design things, right? Like you divide and conquer.
Assemble the team. That takes time to interview different vendors.
And maybe Liz, we talk about like you're advising clients on like they're just doing like a virtual design and they're not, doing more of the project management. Maybe just talk about that a little bit because it's so important that initial post close phase, right? Where be able to knock out a bunch of your hours between that when you buy the property, when you close on a property, when you launch. I mean, you just talk about like that process.
Yeah, so generally speaking, design, if we hire a design company, which we always recommend, it just there are a lot of decision you need to make on design. And short-term rental design is very different from residential design. So we always recommend hire a professional, right? So design usually split into two kind. One's virtual design. They deliver a concept, all the entire design virtually, which meaning giving you the shopping list, the design plan, the install plan. So you have a document of how to execute the design yourself on the ground. So you are the project manager in charge, taking that design plan and then be on the ground, assemble your own team of contractor, bring that design to life on your own. That's virtual design. And that itself, I would say it's a really easy way to hit that 100 hours because you got to hire a team, interview them, hire the people, and then start managing your team on the ground to get that design live. Usually, I would say depends on the size, a week to 10 days minimum for the scope of work. And if every day you're working 8 hours, that's a really easy way to just, and if you're a couple, that's even faster,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, look, let's remember when you and I were doing it
Yeah, the last
ourselves.
project,
Yeah, I
it
mean, when we
was
were doing it
way more
ourselves.
than, I don't even know how
No,
long.
but no, like I mean the day to day, right? When we did the Catskills property, right? Like you weren't as involved day to day because we had two kids, or we had two kids. But before we had kids, right? When we were doing some of the earlier stuff in 2022, 2023, we get up at 6 in the morning and work until 1 a.m. I mean,
Yeah.
I recommend that. And that was, when we were a little earlier, we were a little younger. We were like just trying to save money and did a lot more of the work ourselves. We're older and we have children now, so it's harder to do now. But like you can knock out 10, 12 hours a day. And if you're doing more of it yourself, like a 10-hour day is like not outrageous at all. Right.
Yeah.
And not to overwhelm you with the work, but there's just a lot to do.
Yeah, just
So
to give a quick example, let's just take the Catskill New York house, right? We were there together for a period of time, maybe 3, 4 days,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, oh yeah.
we work all day long, 6 a.m. all the way.
What were you doing actually? Maybe talk about what were you
Yeah,
doing?
so I think that's a really easy way to give examples.
Yeah.
We both were project managing all the vendor. I think at some point there more than 10 vendor and contractor inside the house doing various different things. And I think the way we divide it is I focus a lot inside the house. You focus a lot on the landscaping outside the house, and then we kind of split the work that way.
Yeah.
So a lot of things I was doing is like, how do we think about our storage space for our cleaner, contractor, handyman? So it's really well organized and labeled in the way that we want it, and organize our linen. There's a lot of linen when you sleep 16 plus people.
Yeah, like you had Janet and her entire team there helping you with
So how
the
you manage that is a really important part. You
yeah.
want to be organized and be able to oversee that process. And
Oh, you
label.
were doing a lot. You were doing a lot of that though. I mean, you were like deep into doing like
Yeah, a lot of it.
like
I was in there doing it together because, but I do still need help. And I was doing a lot of by myself is organizing the kitchen. I wanted to set up the way I want so the guest has really good experience. They know exactly where everything is,
we
label
get so many good comments. Sorry, we get so many
everything.
good comments on the thing.
Yeah,
By the
it
way.
really translate into hospitality and then guest experience. And I do labeling the entire house on the switches. It's a big house. When
Yeah.
it's 5,000 square feet house, there are 30 different light switches at different places. You want to label all of them. And that also gets, it takes a long time to be fair, but
And you had help too. You'd help to. I mean, Peggy helped you,
that helps
right?
a lot. It also shows up a lot in reviews. So all those little things take time, actually hours, what I just described there. It could take at least half day to a full day easily if you're first time doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
And you've done
so
like so
that's an
many
easy
days.
way, very easy way to get the hours in already.
So look, there's a lot. This is a detailed work. It just takes a lot of time to get right. Everything that Liz is talking about with just the operational flow of the property. With
Mhm.
the linens, the supplies, and then the kitchen has a lot of like detailed work. And you didn't even talk about like the coffee bar that you set up and the work that went
Yeah.
there, and then the
The
record
QR code, the
the
instruction.
QR codes, yeah, the record station that you have, right? Like that took a bunch of work too. So, you can have help, but like you're not going to be, there's not a deficit of work for you to do. There's like plenty of stuff there to do. So, if you're willing, what we always recommend is go there when you close, kind of organize your calendar so that you can spend a week there and just like work on it. You'll get a ton of your hours from that. For me, specifically, just on that property, we did a lot of work on the backyard, fire pit, string lighting, sauna, hot tub, all the electrical work, concrete, the concrete slabs for both the sauna and the hot tub, the stonework. I mean, it was like, I mean, I wasn't doing it, but you need a project manager, right? If
Yeah.
not, they're just blow out my costs. It's like, where do you want everything? Does it actually make sense? Are
Mhm.
they cutting corners? Right, by like just doing a poor job. Like when they poured a concrete slab, I was like, wait a minute, we said 8 feet, this is 7 feet. Like they
Yeah.
they try to rip me off. They give you one less foot. And I was like, I paid for it, right? Because we paid my surface area. So all these things you kind of you need to be there on the ground and do it. And so a lot of it's that project management. I hired probably like 6 to 8 people there that were like working on my stuff while Liz was working on, with probably 3 or 4 people on your side to organize everything. And I remember, literally just I would go from room to room. And what do I do is actually look around and help clean up. As they're working, you need someone to kind of organize it. So what I would do is actually just go and clean up. And I would see what they were doing. And then if they were doing the same thing after a while, like, hey, like what's going on? Like, do you need help here? If they're being really efficient, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Okay, like what's the next thing that you're working on? So I know kind of what everyone is doing. I'll just keep going around the house, just keep doing it around again and again. And then I'll see where there's inefficiencies that are happening or where things should be reprioritized. So I'm just really directing traffic there. Like, all right, hey, we got to move everything from the living room all the way outside. And then so we can go and, do what we need to do. And like, okay, if you're not doing anything right now, like go down to the bedroom and start making the cabinets and the beds, right? Like you need one person that has the overall vision and can direct traffic. So that was like that's what I did for
Yeah, and the big part of
weeks.
it was like so important. People underestimate the amount of boxes from the delivery and how much boxes you need to flat out and trash out to the dumpster. That work alone takes time and effort
Yeah.
and a lot of
That's
energy.
you
That
need
was
yeah.
you really.
You're gonna do a 4 or 5 thousand square foot house. You're gonna need a 40 yarder to throw away all the garbage. It's just too much, and you don't want that stuff laying outside. So look, I mean, I think we're using the example of what we did with our last property. There was way more than 100 hours. I think we logged. I was at least like 200 something hour, 100 something hours that we logged just from that, and then that excludes the operational part of the 7 properties that we own, or the 6 properties that we owned at the time, in our 30 plus unit, Airbnb arbitrage portfolio. So for us, this is our full time job, both of us. For us, the hours are not the key consideration. So what we wanted to kind of share here today was, if you're looking at this, like, hey, how do I do this? Like, how do I have kids? Like at that time, our daughter was 3 and our son was
One.
1.5, 1-ish. We're really young kids. This is 3 hours away from our place in New York City. So it's definitely doable. You just got to be organized in how you approach it. If you do it together, there's plenty of work to do. You log it. It's a nice way to connect with your spouse too, like a different flow. It's not just about managing the house or the kids or like who didn't do the laundry, but it's like we're actually working and building something together.
I think zoom out a little bit is like the big part of this strategy that we're leveraging is really building family wealth and really through that unlock more time freedom, right? That's really the core of why we are doing this, to more time freedom for our family, and at the same time we are able to build family wealth, accelerate that, compound that effort every single year buying one property, consistently. Last year, various reasons we got too busy with the kids and everything, but the goal is at least one property every single year and have a repeatable system able to do that.
We necessarily have to make money and produce income because we have a 4 and 2 year old, so kids are expensive. So we're going to be working for the next decade plus, right? At least. So we're going to be paying taxes. So and we want to continue to build our real estate portfolio. So it's just a really nice way for the tax code to support that. They passed this 100% bonus depreciation back in July 2025, and there's a real path for us and for you, a real path to invest in real estate, save taxes, produce cash flow, and have something to pass on to your kids. So, I think it's a really nice strategy for our family to build wealth. And if you're listening and you're looking to do something similar, could be the right fit for you. Any parting thoughts, Liz, before we go?
No, I think this is great. It's an easy way to give, I think, everyone some examples how we're doing it. There are many other ways to do post closing when you're operationally managing, self-managing guest communication from that front. There are a lot of hours can be counted as well, but we just want to give some concrete example of how can it be done. It's very possible.
Very possible. And we have plenty of students that have done it before. So I'm going to link here on the show notes. We have a blog post where we talk about the material participation hours. So we'll send that, and then we'll put on the link for the app that we're using, the SR Tax Loophole app, to record your hours. Thanks for listening. And if you're interested in learning more about the SR Like the Best program, we have a link there for you to review how we help other investors invest in short-term rentals. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment, subscribe. Liz and I do this every week. And, we really, really appreciate it. If you have a friend or your spouse or a friend who you think would enjoy this episode, please do share with them. We don't do any kind of paid advertising or any sponsorship. So this would help us grow, and we'd appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you
Thank you.
next week.
Thank you.